Hey everybody, I am Ryan from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews, but today I am not going to be reviewing a board game. Instead, I'm going to be talking about the 5 stages of prototypes that I use when I'm developing a game. I am an amateur board game designer. I like to do that in my spare time. It's another fun kind of hobby within the hobby of board gaming, and there's a whole lot of fun to be had here. I just came back from a Proto-Spiel event, which is basically a chance for a whole bunch of designers to get together and playtest each other's games, which is really, really fun. So I'm kind of jazzed up about this whole designing thing right now. So I want to talk about a couple of things. All right, so when you are prototyping, you don't just go ahead and make a final copy of a game and go to a publisher and say, hey, here's my game. No, there's a whole lot of stages you have to get to before you get to that point. And the most important thing of all is playtesting. You're going to hear every designer who has published a game, they're all going to talk about playtesting and how that's the number one most important thing you can possibly do. So how do you get to that point, and how do you get to where you're ready to pitch? I will say that this is this is not a one-size-fits-all solution, right? This is, every game is different, every game designer has a different process. This is just the steps that I use to get from point A to point B. All right, so the first stage I want to talk about, this is basically the bare bones, very beginning, put your idea on paper phase of the prototype. So this is a game I'm working on actually with my daughter. She had this idea, and we decided to put it on paper. And all we did is literally just cut out some pieces of paper and we wrote on them. So this is that's all it is. We just put some paper on paper, some ideas on paper, cut them out, and we started kind of toying around with it a little bit. If you hear people talking about board game designs being, a dime a dozen, that's all they are. They're just ideas floating out in the space. Until you actually go and you put something on paper, it's nothing. It's worth nothing. It's not a real item. It's not a product. Putting something on paper is the most important step of this entire process. Just get it on paper. That way you can play around with it. And if it stops there, that's fine too. But if you just have this idea I've got this great idea for this game, that's great. All of us do. It's not a big deal. Put it on paper. Step 1. Put it on paper. All right, so step 2, this is what I call the proof of concept prototype. So this is where you are making things a little bit more able to be used. So I've got some tiles here that I wrote on. There's really basic tiles. I've got some custom dice that I just kind of wrote on with a Sharpie, That's all I'm trying to do here is just get some ideas of what things look like. If you are a graphic designer, you might maybe put some rough ideas on some paper and cut them out like that. That's totally fine at this stage. All you're trying to do is prove, does this game work? Is it fun? Is it worth pursuing? And I'm going to be honest, there's some games that at this point die. If you get to the stage and you realize, you know what? The way I envisioned it working in my head, it didn't come to fruition. It's okay. Games can die at any stage in this, but this is a great stage for it. At this point, you've spent no money and you've spent barely really any time either. So it's okay to let a game die. But really what you're hoping for is you are hoping to prove that this concept that you had in your head works. And you want to play it with other people. You're kind of a closer knit of people at this point. You're going to play it with them, see if it's fun, see if there's something there and that's worth pursuing. All right, so stage 3, this is what I'm going to call the playtesting prototype. This is the one that you are going to spend a little bit more time on, making something that's a little bit more functional. Again, you want to have a little bit of a background, a game design background, graphic design background, so you can kind of mock something up. There's an actual tangible board. They're not just using paper anymore. One tip and trick is, so I've got some cards here, right? That looks pretty decent, but really what's happening is once again, this is just paper. That's all I did is I printed on the paper. I stuck it inside of a sleeve with a magic card to give it some stability, to make it feel more like an actual card that's sleeved. So that's kind of a tip and a trick there that I use to make some cards that feel playable, that feel real, feel usable, that you can play test with. But again, you've spent very little money at this stage. Stage 3, you're going to start to spend some money, but not much. And everything is still very, very flexible. You're going to play test the heck out of this game while you're in your 3rd stage of prototype. And if there's something that doesn't work out, and you're like, well, guess what? All I have to do is just go back to my graphic design, print out another one of these with the corrections on it, and slip it right back in when I'm done. That's all you have to do with this 3rd stage whenever you want to change something. Changing something should be very, very, very fluid in stage 3. And also in stage 3, you have an idea of what you want your theme to be. Obviously, when you first made the game, you had an idea what the theme might have been. Some people kind of design with the mechanisms first in mind. Some people design with theme first in mind. But by stage 3, you want your themes and your mechanisms to start marrying. You want them to start merging together in a way that they are going to be rewarding. And You want to be very, very open to feedback, really at all these stages, but especially here in this third stage. You've got a lot of flexibility. You want to spend a lot of time here. This is where you're spending probably, out of all the 5 stages, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. You want to lock things in. And you know what? You might find a situation where things were broken. You might get bounced back to stage 2 at this point, and that's okay. You're going to fix them, bring it back to stage 3, rework them again. All right, so the stage 4, this is what I'm going to call the balancing phase. At this point, you now have spent a little bit more money. You finally started getting maybe some custom cards. I got some cards made up here for a game that I was working on. I had these little custom 3-dimensional traffic cones made up for me. I even went ahead and paid a graphic designer to make a board for me, or to design a board and cards for me. This is a really nice board. I'm really happy with it. So you have to spend a little bit more money at this point as well. One thing I will say is, don't get to stage 4 too early. I did. This particular game is kind of dead in the water. I wish I'd stayed in stage 3 a little longer, and just kept on working it, kept on tweaking it. You should not spend money on a graphic design or on art or any of that stuff until you are feeling very, very good about this game. And of course, this is my first game, so at the time I was feeling very, very good about this game, not realizing that there was still a lot of work that yet needed to be done. Whenever you think you're done playtesting, playtest some more anyways. There's always more you can learn, almost more you can find out. But really what you're kind of drilling down at this stage 4 is the balancing. You might have had some kind of a point structure or whatever that you liked, and you're just going to need to fine-tune it a little bit. At this point, you're just making final adjustments. You're still playtesting. You never stop playtesting. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you're always playtesting these. I call stage 3 the playtesting phase only because that's where you're going to be spending the most amount of your time, right? That's where you have taking the most amount of feedback, and you're really taking it all in. And another thing when taking feedback, the more times you hear somebody say something, and if you hear somebody, 5 different people all say, the game took a little bit too long for my taste, that's worth listening to. If you heard one person say, you know what, I didn't like the dragon theme that you used, that's one person. If 5 people are saying it, okay, maybe it's time to listen up. All right, so kind of a little off track there, but basically stage 4 is all about balancing, kind of getting the math right, getting things in the direction that you want to move them to. Some more custom components, you're spending more money at this point. The 5th stage is what I'm going to call the pitching phase. This is the pitching prototype. At this point, you have essentially final graphic design. You have essentially final art. And I don't mean final as far as like what's going to be actually published. I'm talking about the idea that if someone saw this, they would be like, oh, that's basically a finished game at that point. That being said, you still don't want to stop playtesting. Even here, I went to the Chicago Protospiel. I brought this game, that one that I mentioned that's in stage 5 for me, and I still had some great feedback. A lot of that feedback was, you're good to go. You are on the path to being done. But I still heard some things like, what if you tried this? What if you tried this? And half that is just designers being helpful and wanting to interject a little bit of their experience into your idea, and that's fine to listen to. But at the same time, at this stage 5, you should have really, really worked through a lot of that already, so you are ready to pitch this to publishers, if that's your goal. If you are going the route of self-publishing, stage 5 should be essentially testing to make sure your final art works, and then sending it to the printer, or going to Kickstarter, or whatever the case is with your individual design. My design strategy involves, pitching to other publishers. So at this stage, that's why I'm calling it the pitching phase. The pitching prototype is because I'm now have essentially what's close to final art, at least with what I can do. A lot of times publishers will then hire their own artists, graphic designers, or whatever, and move forward with your idea in its final form. So those are the 5 stages that I wanted to talk about of prototyping. Basically, you start from your very, very, very basic, just paper and pen kind of a concept, kind of working up to spending a little bit more and more and more money as it goes on, as the game goes on, until you have your final prototype that you're really, really, really happy with. You have everything locked in the way that you want it. Now, don't forget to still be open and listening to feedback, especially from publishers. If you're pitching to publishers, and you're at this 5th stage and you think you're done, but you hear from several publishers, you know what, I kind of like that. It would make it more sense in our catalog if you did this to it. Guess what? You might get bumped back to stage 3 a little bit. You might get bumped back to the stage where you need to go retool a little bit, playtest it some more, and bring it back up to stage 4 and eventually stage 5. And that's completely fine. don't ever think that you're done with a design until it's signed and on a boat or a plane coming to the distribution warehouses. You're always wanting to make the best possible version of your game by testing it, and reworking it and getting it better and better each time. All right, you guys, I know this is not a review like we talked about, but if you like this style of content talking about the design processes that I use or the games I'm working on or experiences I've been having kind of as through the eyes of a designer, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. This is not our normal kind of video, but at the same time, I hope there might be some value in there for you. If you like the idea of designing or like even just like hearing about it, I think that'd be a fun feedback to hear from you guys. As always, please hit that subscribe button and give us a like. Also, we have all of our different social media channels right over here. Be sure to follow us there so that way you can see all the shenanigans we have going on. We love hearing from you guys. All right, everybody, until next time, talk to you later. Bye. You guys, thanks for watching our shenanigans. As always, we appreciate it. Over here, if you follow this link, you're going to find a playlist we've hand-selected, handcrafted just for you because you watched this video.
And if you check over here, this is a video that YouTube thinks you might like. So you can check that out if you want as well.
All right, we appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.